Marla, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing outstanding. How are you?
I am great.
Awesome,
Ready
awesome,
or raring to go.
awesome. All right. So, hey, everybody, this is Ron Williams with Hoodle, and you are here. If you're here today watching this video, this is our first ever Business of Building webcast where we're going to start talking about, we're going to start interviewing thought leaders throughout the home building industry every week and talking about things that can help you as a custom home builder grow your business, make more money. So we're looking at best practices. We're looking at the latest and greatest and innovative new things that are going to help you with really just expanding your presence, expanding your role. And on our inauguration webcast here today, we have none other than Marla Esser. And Marla, say hi.
Hi.
So before we get into the interview, I got to tell you guys who Marla is. So Marla is a blogger. She is an author. She is a podcaster. She's a web entrepreneur. She's kind of a Renaissance woman in the area of green home building. And so she's got just a ton of things to share with you. And I'm going to shut up in just a second. But, you know, what we really wanted to do today, Marla, was to really kind of pick your brain about, you know, what is green and why is it important, some things like that. So with that, why don't we just jump in here? And Marla, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
I would love that. Thank you. And actually, I've had kind of a crazy fun journey. And I think the question I get asked the most is, how did I get into green? And it was kind of by accident, but it was the mama bear thing. Over 10 years ago, my daughter had a really adverse reaction. It turned out to be the sheets when we were on a cruise ship.
Right.
And we discovered that she had, after a lot of research and MSDS safety sheets and all that jazz, we learned that she had a really bad allergic reaction to something in the detergents. And that started me on my journey to get my home more chemical free for the safety of my children. And this is what I hear from so many people, especially women, is the health concerns drive them to do things differently. And the cool thing is that that's green principles. So that was really kind of how I got started. And growing up with a grandmother who grew up in the Depression with the waste not, want not theory, I found that all kind of came together. But I didn't know it at the time because I actually went to college to become an engineer. I went to Washington University in St. Louis and studied engineering, never practiced. I went straight to IBM working in technical sales and marketing. And while I was still there, started my first company when I was pregnant with my second child. That's really a tough time to start a business. But we made it 4 years before closing down, and you know, like many companies, didn't make it, but had an amazing experience, learned a ton, but then launch padded off of that for the next 15 years, doing all kinds of freelance work, working for other people, project work. I got experience in career outplacement and web, running a website for a 180,000 member sorority organization, actually. And actually, I met my web developer when I was on that project. So, you know, all this stuff comes back around. It all comes together.
It does, doesn't it?
But at that time, I got introduced to an opportunity. A very old friend of mine from IBM was taking early retirement and asked me to help him come up with a business model. And he ended up deciding to become an energy consultant. And after a few months after he started, I went over and helped him with marketing and sales. And that was amazing because it really launched me into the green community in St. Louis. And there's actually a very robust green community. And so I got to know all these people and learned all these things. And I was really tutored up into the business with some of the greats. And so Matt Belcher, who is well known in the National Association of Home Builders as a respected consultant, builder, and former code official, who's also written a great book called Go Green and Save, or Build Green and Save. I apologize, Matt, I don't remember the exact name of your book, but it's available on NAHB's Builder Books. But so I grew up under his tutelage, grew up in the business. I grew up in the world of green under Green Jean Ponzi, who is a legend in St. Louis for all things green. She works at the Missouri Botanical Garden, which is a huge caretaker of and really a propagator and an implementer of the whole green and sustainability idea in St. Louis. They've even worked with the St. Louis Regional Chamber of Commerce to build a green business challenge. So all of this stuff kind of came together. And after I'd worked for a few years with this friend of mine, we ended up parting ways, and I went off and started my own company. And I started it with HomeNav, which is an online homeowner's manual. And it is designed to help homes that are going for green certification with National Green Building Standard, which is the NAHB, the National Association of Home Builders, green certification program, designed for builders. I love it. Talk to anybody more about that because I get really excited about it. But my program, HomeNav, and our service would help builders to meet the homeowner education and documentation requirements of the National Green Building Standard. Also works just as well for LEED homes, for Earthcraft homes, for Built Washington, Built Texas. None of the energy efficient programs yet require homeowner education and documentation, but it worked great there too. Matter of fact, it works for any home. We still have that tool and that service, but what that taught me was how to really start talking with people and having conversations about why all this green stuff mattered. And that's really where I found my passion, and that's really where I've taken it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I tell you,
sorry.
That's good. That's a good answer. So, it's exciting to be getting into this, but I get a little confused when you're talking about green and sustainable and high performance and all this stuff. So, break it down for us real briefly, put it at a lay level for me, but what is green? What does that comprise?
So green, sustainable, and high performance generally all refer to the same thing in the home and building.
All right.
What has kind of happened is sustainable, if you look at the actual definition, if you go to Webster's Dictionary or Wikipedia or wherever your favorite place is, sustainable means able to generate into the future. So able to make it long lasting. So anything that is sustainable, like a business can be sustainable, right? Because you want it to keep going into the future. So when we think of buildings being sustainable, then we want them to last a long time. Think of the buildings in Europe and Asia. Many of those structures have been around for thousands of years, or at least hundreds of years. And we're not even that old of a country. And we tear down things and rebuild them just because we can. So getting over that kind of disposable kind of thinking with your buildings is really kind of the sustainable moniker, if you will.
Okay.
High performance generally responds more to the energy efficient and indoor air quality side. I oftentimes will bring in a lot of the green qualities, which hang on, I'll get there. But high performance really talks about how well the home performs. And one of my favorite mottos is you want a home that looks good and performs well, right? And almost any person I talk to, especially women, and we run the homes, folks, just face it, builders, you gotta be able to talk to us. We control too much money as a gender. I'm just gonna tell you this. I know men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but you gotta get over this. You got to listen to what we want and deliver it. And it just so happens that green is it. So what's green? How do I segue in? Good.
What's that?
I said, how do I segue in?
No, that's great.
Green is a color, obviously, but green in the building world and green in the sustainability world and green in the eco-environmental blah, blah, blah world means a lot of things to a lot of different people because there's so many different facets to green. And this is part of what happens is green becomes a catch-all term. And because of that, in some parts of the country, it really kind of became a dirty word for a while. So much so that I ran a campaign once that said green is not a four-letter word. Oops. So, but at any rate, so what is green? Let's talk about green in reference to home building, since that's really what we're talking about here. Number one, let's start with why green, because that's what really matters. So there's basically 7 general benefits that I talk about that most people want from their homes, and green homes align with those benefits really nicely. So health, safety, and comfort. Those are almost always the top 3. Our homes are our refuge. They are our castle. They are our safe place. Of course, we want them to be a place where we feel it is promoting our health, our safety, and our comfort. And there's almost no one I know that lives in a traditionally built home, especially an older home, that doesn't have some comfort issue somewhere in their home. We've come to expect it. It's kind of like getting older and getting arthritis. You've come to expect it. Life doesn't have to be that way, right?
Right.
We know better. If we take care of things, do the right things all the time, then you don't have to go there. Same thing's true with our homes. So comfort, health, safety. Those are the big three.
Okay.
From there, you move into time, saving it, convenience, ease, and money. And a lot of folks are out there talking about how energy efficient homes are going to save you money. And you know what? People make emotional decisions, not rational ones. We think we make rational decisions, and we will tell you we want to make a rational decision, but we don't.
Nope.
Otherwise, why would somebody pay $10 for a pack of cigarettes?
Exactly.
I rest my case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of benefits to building green. What's the
Part, Rob? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
Those benefits don't just accrue for the homeowner or the people living in the home. A lot of times, the people actually building the house and making the components that go into the house, if they're working with healthier, safer items, they get some of the benefits too. So, I mean, it can go up line.
So it kind of goes up and down the whole chain of, yeah. So how
really cool.
how big would you say this market is? I mean, would you consider green kind of a niche arena at this point? Is it a mature market? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a newer market, but it has become mainstream now. And I wish I'd pulled the studies. So there's a couple of studies that were done by Smart Market, which is now Dodge Data Analytics. I can't remember the new name. I apologize. But they ran a study back about 3 or 4 years ago that was showing we were coming on the steep curve, the hockey puck or the hockey stick curve.
Right.
And they have tracked their results with what they predicted, and they've been pretty much on target. So, and I should have pulled my statistics before I got on here because I haven't been talking statistics 6 months. But well over a quarter of homes, and I think it's higher than that now too, Ron, and I can get exact statistics for you, are now having some components in there that are green. Now, how many of those homes are certified? Not as many. Yet the National Green Building Standard, which is the one that is endorsed by the National Association of Home Builders, has over 100,000. I think we're actually up closer to 110,000 certifications to date. Now that's of units, homes, and land. But it's growing like gangbusters. And a big part of this has been, especially in multifamily buildings, because so much of the financing is tied to a building being certified. So the commercial side, the multifamily side, because it kind of falls commercial and residential, dollars and cents wise, these people have seen the benefits of it and are asking for buildings to be certified. I mean, it's in the financing requirements of some of the projects I've even worked with. We need to think on those terms for our own homes.
Right. Do you have a sense, Marla, of the demographic? You know, what do the people look like that are wanting to build green?
And what do you think it is? Just give me your guess.
Well, I know that women, you know, as you've already said, make 94% of the decisions I've read. Millennials?
That's what everybody guesses is millennials.
Okay, so.
And millennials are a huge driver. Here's the other thing that's exciting about millennials is they are entering the home buying market in droves. And because a lot of, I'm putting this in, but I believe since a lot of them have waited to buy homes, they're buying not a starter home, a lot of them are buying next level homes. And the statistics are bearing that out. I'm just giving you my opinion on why I think that's happening.
Right.
But we now have millennials that are in their mid-30s that are having families that are, you know, risen up in their companies enough where they've got some staying power. And the millennials have grown up on a sustainable message. They have learned this from a young age in school. So guess what they're asking for? But here's the surprise. The other leading part of the market push is, drum roll please, baby boomers.
Really? Wow.
Yep. And here's the funny part. Baby boomers and millennials typically want the same things in a home, just for different reasons. So we want hassle-free living, which means low maintenance, durable, ease, convenience. We might want smart home features, although how a millennial implements a smart home feature might be really different than how a baby boomer. implements it. But so we want different things. The other thing that's been really fun to watch about the baby boomer market, and I'm, count me in, we've had enough experience with homes to know what works and what doesn't work. And we're like, we've gotten smarter than that. Let's not go back there. Now, obviously, I am stereotyping and lumping an entire demographic sector together. But we're seeing some really strong trends in that. And a lot of baby boomers also want to be able to build a house, live in a house, remodel a house that they can have the grandkids in, that they can leave at a moment's notice, that they can stay in and age in place in. So something that's long lasting makes sense.
And then how does it impact, it's got to cost more to build green, right?
What do you think it costs? How much more do you think? Than a code, how much would you predict it costs more than a code built house?
15%.
Typically 3 to 5 or less.
Really? Is that all? So what's the, what's the other, the value, the long-term value on the other end?
My God. Yeah, they sell faster. They sell for more money. They typically sell for 7 to 9% more money, depending on which study you read.
Wow.
They also will deliver money back because their operational costs are so much lower. So if you build a home that's really going to perform well for you, you're going to have less maintenance costs, less energy costs, less hassle costs. So maybe you're not calling people in to do stuff for you as much because you can do it yourself. So there's all these unintended consequences and benefits. And I'll tell you that a lot of builders that I talk to, it's hard. They've done things the same way for so long. And building is such it's a risk-laden, a risk-laden proposition in the first place, because you've got a builder. I think Bob Venture from Proud Green Homes said this best when he said, a builder's got to bring together thousands of disparate parts on crazy, in circumstances, maybe on a piece of land that's, not the same one time after the other. And they've got all these variables that they have to contend with. So one of the ways they mitigate risk, and I am paraphrasing, Bob, if you're listening to this, but one of the ways builders mitigate risk is by once they get something to work, they do it over and over again, which makes them very resistant to change, which I get that. So, but, we had the Edison light bulb for 120 years. We're still building houses in some ways like we have for many decades. And new technology is coming in fast, but we've got new building materials out there, new practices, new science, and bringing all that into the equation does mean that you have a lot of change. And in an industry that already has enough variables in it, I can see how that's really hard.
Right.
But here's the good news. There's a lot of help. There's a huge amount of help. There's all kinds of people out there that will work with you. There's consultants. A lot of times the people that support the certification programs have people to work with you and help you through. And what I find time after time again when I've worked with builders, and I have a very small piece that I've worked directly with builders, but even when I'm talking to them, that first house or two, it's tough. I'm just going to tell you that, because you got to rethink everything. And if you really want a paradigm shift, then you're starting with a clean sheet of paper. That's really a big change.
Mm-hmm.
But once they do it and they figure it out, a lot of them say, oh, this was pretty good. We might be able to do this. And I find a lot of people kind of up-level their game after they've done that, even if they don't continue building certified green homes, for instance.
Right. So is there a way that builders are resistant to change for a lot of different reasons, like you already mentioned. And, this is a little bit of a scary proposition for somebody to take on a new type of product. Everybody's heard about it. Everybody's heard it's coming. Is there a way for a builder to put one foot in the water? I mean, how can they do this? Or do you have to dive off, the deep end, into the deep end of the pool, dive off the diving board? Are there certain examples of how you can get started in green building?
There's always things you can do that are greener. You can use a lower toxin paint. You can use carpets, flooring, cabinetry that don't off-gas. You can do a little bit of energy efficiency. But let me suggest something. And that's all well and good. But that's where Peter Pfeiffer, who is a green home architect in Austin, Texas, always called it the green bling. When you just snap on green things on top of a existing home plan or how you were going to build the house anyway, and that is where the green is expensive myth, I believe, perpetuates from. Because then you're taking your standard house plan and you're slapping stuff on there to make it green. However, if you begin at the beginning and plan your work, matter of fact, we really recommend people have charrettes between the builder, the designer, the homeowner, the heating and cooling people, all the major stakeholders up front before you finalize the plans. Actually, if you can, before you even start the plans. And understand what's the priorities of each of those stakeholders, and then plan a home to work with all of those in mind. Obviously, there's compromises and give and take, but here's what happens. A home is a system, right? And a home is a system of systems. So a home is a system of heating and cooling systems, plumbing systems, electrical systems, wall systems, roof systems, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
You change any one of those systems, it impacts the others.
Mm-hmm.
It's a domino effect.
Makes sense.
So if I put in a high efficiency heating and cooling system, that I don't do anything else, I've just green blinged. Because all I've done is slap on an energy efficient heating and cooling system without any consideration to any of the other things that are affecting that house.
Interesting.
Think of it. If you do something to your body, how many other things does it affect? I have a knee injury right now, which got worse after an ankle injury on the other side, which actually threw my hips off and my back and now my neck. Ouch. But it's because I'm a system. My muscular system was affected. My skeletal system was affected. Our homes are the same way. We have to think differently about our homes in order to get the full benefits that are available to us from green homes.
Wow. Well, it sounds like a real opportunity for a lot of builders if they're willing to do it.
You?
It's what?
Did I scare you?
No, you might have. It didn't scare me. It might have scared some builders, but I think everybody's realizing from a builder standpoint that they have to come to terms with where the buyers are, what buyers are looking for, what they're thinking, and start moving into some of these new models. For some guys, it's easier than others.
Well, here's the big thing I also was hearing a lot from builders, because we were going around the country doing these presentations a few years ago, and one of the biggest thing I heard is, my customers are not asking for green. Of course they're not asking for green. They don't care how you get there. Green's just the vehicle. What they want is the end result. You ask your customers if they want better health, safety, and comfort in their homes. Right. Do you ask them if they want a draft-free home? Do you ask them if they want a home that they don't have to maintain much, that pretty much takes care of itself? Do you ask them if they want a home where they have hot water instantaneously and they're not wasting a ton of hot water every time they take a shower? Do you ask them if they want abundant daylight in their homes for their psychological well-being as well as lower energy costs? Do you ask them those kind of questions? Or do you ask them if they want low-E argon-filled windows? Right. Do you ask them if they want 24 insulated walls?
Right.
They don't. Nobody, a homeowner and a homebuyer does not know what those terms are.
Right. They're thinking in terms of benefits.
Right. And we talk, as an industry, we tend to talk features. It is starting to change. Thank goodness. Slowly. But we're getting there. You know, it's a start. I'll take it. So you have to go to where people are. What do they want out of their home? How do they want their home to feel? And guess what? Most people will pay a little bit more to get what they really want.
Well,
money for their priorities.
Absolutely. And I think that, builders are coming to terms with this. And, I've had a lot of builders that have asked different questions about it that I've talked to over the last year or so. So we got some examples. We got a lot of ideas about benefits. What's a good next step for builders to, as we're wrapping up here in the next few minutes, what is a good next step for builders to get started in this? Are there particular resources they could go pursue? Where do they go?
So I'm going to plug the National Green Building Standard. They have a consumer site that's ngbs.com. that because it's aimed at consumers, it's just a great place for anybody, builder, consumer, or otherwise. And I apologize, consumers, for calling you consumers, because we are the public. We're not defined by our buying habits. But ngbs.com is just a great place to see very high level what the benefits of a home are. You also can investigate any of the green building programs to learn more about it. The National Association of Home Builders offers a certified green professional designation where you go through 3 days of classes to learn more about the science of green building. So it's really more of a building science class. Pardon me a second. I can also put a shameless plug in. You might start by reading my book, which is Living Green Effortlessly, Simple Choices for a Better Home. There's an entire chapter in the back of the book talking about, so you want a certified home, why that matters, how you get started. There's actually an ebook that's pretty much the same as the last chapter in my book that's available on my website that talks about the process of a certified home. It doesn't talk so much about the here's and hows and why fors of green building, because that's really building science. But here's what you got to keep in mind. When you are looking at any green home, you got 5 different physical things that you got to look at. So where the house is, efficiencies in 3 areas: resources, water, and energy. Number 5 is indoor air quality. So how healthy your indoor air is, because a lot of times it's more polluted than outside. And then your 6th section is kind of the bow around the whole thing, and that's your homeowner education and documentation. And that most of the green building programs may not have it divided in exactly those same chapters, but they go after those same goals. That just happens to be how the National Green Building Standard is divided up. And anybody that would like to, I'd be happy to share any of the resources I have. I've been very, very, very fortunate to meet a lot of really talented people in the industry and call many of them friends. And I'm happy to share any of that with anybody I can.
Outstanding. And you know, for anybody listening out there, I got to tell you that Marla, she absolutely walks what she's saying, that she's always providing a lot of value out in the marketplace. But Marla, real briefly, your podcast is called
The Green Gab.
The Green
You find it on iTunes.
Gab. And there's just a ton of value that somebody can get out of this if they get connected with you. What's the best place for builders to reach out to you? What's the best way for them to connect with you, online or offline?
Yeah, so my email is marla@greenhomecoach.com. Our website is greenhomecoach.com, and that has a ton of the resources that we've talked about and links to pretty much everything. The book, the podcast, Home Nav, all of that is linked through the Green Home Coach website. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter. So yeah, we're in all the normal places. I'm working on Instagram still. I haven't gotten there yet.
I tell you what, you know, it's overwhelming. Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, yes. But YouTube, we actually have like some introduction to building science, just super, super brief snippets called A Bit of BS. So A Bit of Building Science on our YouTube channel.
A Bit of BS.
Yep, A Bit of BS.
Well, builders ought to understand that for sure. So, well, I'm going to, you know, we're going to make a recording of this, and this is going to go out to our Facebook group, The Business of Building, and I will, I've taken a lot of notes here, Marla. I'm going to make some, I'll document it and create some links so people can reach out to you. Builders, if you're listening to this, green building is absolutely not just up and coming, but it's here to stay.
It is.
And so it's not that hard to jump into, and it's absolutely something that you need to explore to see if this is something that can take your business forward and help your clients as well. So, Marla, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, we need to do this again, and next time I want to talk about podcasting.
Absolutely.
And hear some of your experience with that, and maybe we can help builders think through their online presence a little bit, okay?
Absolutely. And there's actually a couple of, there's not a ton of podcasts yet in the building arena, but I found a couple. So awesome. Stay tuned and come back for another round, and we'll talk about that.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. And Marla, I will catch up with you a little later.
Take care, y'all.
Have an outstanding day, y'all. I got that.
Oh, y'all.
Y'all. Bye.
Bye.